Yeah. Oh, Mike.
Hit a big dip,
Call this meeting to order. Let's see, I've been picking on Neil lately. How about John?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll approve minutes of our May 9th meetings. The first of which was the non-public and work session minutes, which we were all there for. So do we have a motion on those minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
By Mike, seconded by Bill. All those in favor? I didn't have to think about your name.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then the May 9th minutes of the regular select board meeting
Motion to accept.
by Mike.
Second.
Second by Bill. Pretty quiet over on this side of the table. The announcements are that we'll meet on the following dates. The next meeting is Monday, June 13th, and then Monday, June 27th. Work review sessions occur prior to the regular meeting at 5 o'clock. Those meetings will be held here. Weather observations for the month of April are available in the town hall. Anyone wishing to be listed on the select board's agenda should notify the town hall before noon on the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Town offices will be closed on Monday, May 30th in observance of Memorial Day, and our Plymouth Memorial Day Parade will be held at 10:30, with the lineup beginning at 10 over at the Armory as usual. During the week of June 6th, Pike Industries will commence work paving on Route 3 from Pearl Street to the Campton Town line, just FYI. And then the first real item on our agenda is Representative Brian Gallagher. I'm guessing that's you. Would you like to come up and, Representative Gallagher, according to my agenda here, is running for the state senate in probably this district.
That is correct.
District 2, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Would you like me to speak from here?
If you'd like to, if you'd be more comfortable at a chair or
Sure.
whatever you'd like.
Yeah.
Sure. So,
Good evening.
good evening. What town are you from?
I am from the town of Samberton in
Uh-huh.
Belknap County.
Yep.
And, Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to spend a few minutes with you folks tonight to give me the opportunity to introduce myself
All right.
Great. to
Well,
you.
we should, this is Paul Freitas, our town administrator,
Hi, Paul.
and the selectmen are John Randlett,
Hi, John.
Neil MacIver, Mike Ahern, Bill Bolton.
Mike Ahern.
And I'm Conklin, Mike Conklin. And Kathy Lowe is also is our administrative go-to person. Sharon Penny's the town planner. And we also have Ann Abear, who's the finance person, and Joe Fagnant, who is our highway guy. Anybody else? And then some people from town.
So there's no quiz on names after that?
You don't have to remember all those, but,
If I may.
Yes.
Just like to take a few minutes to introduce myself. I have some materials that I can leave with you, and I'd be happy to answer questions if there are any that may come up this evening. My name is Brian Gallagher. I'm a state representative from District 4 in Belknap County, which represents the towns of Samberton and Tilton. Last fall, when Senator Forrester began to indicate that she may consider running for governor and going forward with a statewide election, we came in contact with one another, and I met with her several times through the fall and into the winter as her plans progressed. My background is I graduated from Boston College with my bachelor's degree, and I received my master's in business administration from the school up here on the hill behind you. I began my career in Concord, where I worked in the state budget and finance office for 12 years under 5 different governors putting together the state budget plan, so I'm rather familiar with state financing plans. And it began with Governor Thompson back in the 80s, up through Governor Sununu and Governor Gregg and Governor Merrill and so forth. After that, after 12 years there, I left and went up to the New Hampshire Supreme Court, where I worked in the administrative office, which is the business arm of the court system. And I worked there for 8 years in the business area, because the court itself, like any institution, is has a large business function. After spending 8 years there, I left and I took a different turn and went into education, where I became the first business administrator for the Newfound Area School District down the road here in Bristol. And after that, I took an appointment down in Windham and Pelham, where I was the business administrator for those 2 sort of northern Massachusetts towns in southern New Hampshire for 3 years. And then I retired. I was fortunate at a young age to be able to step out. A couple of years ago, folks in the community asked me to consider running for state representative in Sanford and Tilton, and after a few weeks of deliberation, I decided to do it, and I was fortunate to be elected. And I was appointed by the Speaker, where I currently serve on the House Ways and Means Committee in Concord, which is responsible for setting the revenues for the state, and it's also gets very involved in tax policy and taxation and things of that sort. I've been, for the last 8 weeks since Jeannie announced that she was running for governor, I've been visiting the towns in the 3 districts. There's 27. Tonight is 23. And it's been very interesting and educational to see the different communities. They're different sizes. Certainly Plymouth is one of the larger ones in the mix, but I thought it best and important to make sure that I make myself available and known and present myself to each community, irregardless of the size. And I hope to finish up that process by mid-June, once the scheduling sort of figures itself out. With that, that's sort of the background for myself in terms of just quick bullet points. I consider myself, fiscal conservative in terms of philosophy. I do try to listen to issues and come down on the side of reason. I try to prevent myself from going into a situation with a disposition on something, and I would hope that if I were considered by the Senate District 2 community, that I would approach it in the same manner, and I would do my best to try to assimilate a constituent service ability as Jeannie does. But I have to admit, and I think anyone that tries to follow in her path will realize it's not an easy path to follow. But with that in mind, I do have for you a couple pieces of paper which gives me more information on myself. Okay. And we launched a website about a month or so ago, so I put that on the cards.
All right,
if
great.
you would like additional information. And as Colin Ray would say, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Sticking to it. Are you up for questions, if anybody
Sure.
had one?
Yeah,
Which
sure.
primary are you running in?
I'm sorry?
Which primary are you running?
I'll be running in the Republican primary on September the 13th.
Has anyone else declared a candidacy?
There's a gentleman up
You don't
in
have to
Warren.
give his name if you don't want. You just say yes or no. I don't know. Sometimes people don't want to say the opponent's name,
Well, there's a gentleman who happens to be a moderator up in Warren, Bob Gita, and Bob has indicated that he's also going to be running.
Interesting. Anybody else have any questions?
We're a community with many issues surrounding anticipated growth. And we have concerns with the state DOT and designing improved safety and especially on Route 25. We call it the Tenny Mountain Highway Business District.
Sure, it cuts across.
And at the rate that we're growing, we're hoping the state can get started on designing improved safety features on that road.
I've got one for you.
Okay.
We have a couple people here who are here to talk to us about Northern Pass tonight.
Sure, I saw that on your agenda.
And that has become something, well, it's been a controversy, an issue for several years now, but I don't know if you're probably aware that, I think it was last October, they revised the plan to come down Route 3, I think from as far as Bethlehem to Bridgewater, and to bury it under Route 3, which involves a proposal to bury it down Main Street in Plymouth, too, because that's part of Route 3, of course. And I know Jeannie's been one of those people who's spoken against Northern Pass from the beginning, and I'm kind of wondering what you might be thinking at this point.
That's an excellent question. I have heard that question along the road. To me, it comes down to sort of a pretty simple kind of view. The local community's voice needs to be heard in a process, especially in something like this, which is rather dramatic in terms of how it could affect different communities. For example, a voice outside of Center District 2 is different than the voice inside of Center District 2. The city of Franklin is certainly embracing it on how it would possibly affect their community. However, I've learned pretty clearly that there's strong opposition within the Grafton County to the project. I've listened to the selectmen in New Hampton who took a very, very strong position anti-Northern Pass. So I think that what makes the most sense is to follow the needs and the desires of the communities that are being affected. Is anything perfect? No. Is this the answer to our energy needs? Maybe, but it doesn't appear to be the right combination of benefiting New Hampshire and benefiting the communities under the current plan. So if it were to be, if we were to vote in the legislature tomorrow on whether or not to approve Northern Pass or not, I would not support it.
So in its current configuration, I guess, is what some people say, it's difficult to support. There's been talk, I know of, there's some people who support running it down 93, of course, and that's been mentioned here. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Actually, I've spoken with Jeannie about that, and that was a thought that came out, I think, a ways back. And, and then the state owns the land, and it would certainly be an additional revenue source for the state. It would solve a lot of the issues in terms of impacting private property owners. Whether or not it's feasible or not, I haven't done enough research to do it, but I think if all signs were to point towards a project getting approved, then something like that, should be put on the table as a viable alternative to accomplishing something like that. The other piece, it appears that the amount of power that's going to be allocated for the New Hampshire region seems to be very small to what should be worked out in terms of the power supply if a project like this were to go forward. That needs to be changed.
Anybody else? Thank you so much.
I have another one.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We've had problems with opiate drugs in our community, and we'd like to know what kind of support we could get from you in the Senate.
On this particular issue?
Yeah.
Well, I think I view it similarly to other folks, that part of the problem is to prevent the flow of the poison coming into the community. So there's, besides a preventive aspect of it, stopping the supply from coming in, we have to recognize that any of us in this room, irregardless of our economic status, irregardless of our personalities and our backgrounds, we could fall into the trap. And as a result, we have to be willing to provide the resources to treat folks that have stumbled into this problem. And as we go forward, we also have to support them to make sure that they don't relapse if it appears they've successfully come out of it. So I think I would support funding for stopping the flow, funding to help people beat it, and at the same time also having folks be responsible after they're being helped to make sure that they, don't go down this road again. A dollar amount, folks throw different dollar amounts around, and I don't think throwing a lot of money at the problem is the answer, but I think incrementally targeting the pieces that I've outlined is the way to approach.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, that has to be the
Yeah.
last question.
Yeah, we have a public hearing to take care of at 6:16, I guess, maybe, but thanks so much for coming in, Representative. Appreciate you.
Thanks for letting me come
And
in.
good luck with the rest of your tour.
Okay, okay, I will.
So it's 6:15, more or less, and we have a public hearing scheduled, and I'm going to read the notice of the hearing here, which says, "The Plymouth Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing in accordance with RSA 31:95B for the acceptance of unanticipated funds from the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Homeland Security, and Emergency Management in the amount of $221,445 for repairs to a portion of Bell Road, Phase 2. These funds represent 75% of the total project cost. The town's portion of this project will be $73,815. The total project cost is estimated to be $295,260. And
Good evening, Mr.
good
Chair.
evening, Mr. Freitas.
Tonight, as I have in the past, I switch hats. I represent Homeland Security to present you with $225,000. And to let you know that we successfully were able to get the second portion of Bell Road, some grant money from FEMA.
Wonderful.
Who's New Hampshire's Homeland Security. Ann's here as the notary, and Kathy will fill in as the interim TA. Again, I do have to read the first paragraph, much of it duplicates what you just said. It
Oh,
says,
I'm sorry.
"Congratulations, the New Hampshire's Department of Safety, Homeland Security is pleased to provide your community with a hazard mitigation grant." List the numbers. For Bell Road drainage, the amount of federal portion is a grant sum of $221,445,000 to upgrade drainage on Bell Road. Enclosed is a grant agreement for the town of Plymouth to enter into with the state of New Hampshire through the hazard mitigation grant. So that's going to require a vote on your behalf. The town's portion is going to be $73,815,000. That's why it's one of the reasons why the town of Plymouth put in for that $2 million bond, to be able to have matching funds for grants like this. I hope this is one of many to come. I feel it is. As you know, we've gotten about $170,000 for Phase 1 on Bell Road. We were able to get another $45,000 for Phase 1 on Bell Road. And now $225,000 more for Phase 2.
All right, so would it be appropriate for me to open the public hearing?
Yes.
I will open the public hearing, which was scheduled for 6:15 on this agenda item, as I just described it and as Paul has further described it. Is there anyone here who would like to say anything about this? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if it's appropriate to ask this question now, but I'm just curious to know where the second phase starts. Is it like Morris Road to the end to Main Turnpike? Is that the second phase portion of that?
Doing the opposite direction, Rhonda, it's Rhonda Bishop for the record, Kathy. Where Reservoir Road intersects Bell Road,
Yes.
that's Phase 2. From there to, it's past Morse Road, it goes, there's a big culvert out towards Route 3, I don't know if you're familiar with that, it crosses Route 3, it's a big box culvert. Phase 1 comes in from 3A to that box culvert,
Okay.
and from that box culvert to Reservoir Road is Phase 2.
Okay. Anything else? Any other comments, questions, observations? Because if there aren't, I'm going to close the public hearing. No, I'm not? I guess I'm not.
You need to take a vote to accept the grant.
Oh, I thought I did that. Okay, is there a motion to accept the grant?
To accept
I make a motion, we accept the unanticipated funds from the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Homeland Security, and Emergency Management for repairs to a portion of Bell Road known as Phase 2, with the total project cost estimated at $295,260, which is 75%, in the amount of $221,445, to come from the grant from the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Homeland Security, and Emergency Management, and 25% in the amount of $73,815 to come from the town of Plymouth.
Well done.
Notice we're getting better at this.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so we have a motion by John as presented, seconded by Neil. Is there any discussion among the board members? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a unanimous vote, I think, to accept those funds.
So that we don't miss things, which is why we write those out now, because if we leave out one sentence, we don't get the money, as we've learned. I need 3 board members, and I've tried to get better at positioning where your signatures are. And they're tagged out. 3 signatures on each one and 3 initials on the bottom of each one. So if you want to go with the right wing, this time I promised the left wing at the next grant deal.
Well, I thought this was the right one.
Well, yeah, this is all right.
Wingers.
However you would like, I need 3 signatures.
Why don't we start with Mike over
Yeah.
there? Lefty Mike.
Mike's out in the woods.
Thank you. And Ann will notarize that, and I believe you are now allowed to close the meeting.
I will now
You can-
close the
You can
public
continue our
hearing.
regular meeting while the signatures are
Permission
being
from the town administrator. Just kidding.
signed. That would be her, but it's,
Should we finish this before we go on? Might as well, I guess, because Joe's got to come up and...
And this has to go to Governor and Council now.
yes.
Okay. It's going to be a
And
while.
Ann has reminded me, Governor Council still has to
approve this.
approve the fact that Homeland Security gave us money for us to spend on our roads.
And then are they going to keep it for a while?
No, we're going to,
Do you know when it's
can't-
going to be on the agenda?
Huh?
Do you know when it's going to be on the agenda for?
No, they don't tell us.
But will it be done this year, do you expect, the work,
maybe.
Probably not.
Joe?
I think it would just, Phase 1 is going to take a while. It's always possible, of construction season.
Next year.
Right, it'll definitely be next fiscal year,
Mm-hmm.
so. Phase 1, I assume, would take care of this.
Do you have their
fiscal
permits, like stream crossing permits?
year. Phase 2 doesn't involve that, that's Phase 1. I can tell you, unlike before, when we used to get these grants, I'm no longer speaking on behalf of Homeland Security. If we didn't spend the whole 25, if the bids came in at 175, we would be allowed to use the $50,000 to continue to repair. That now goes, that portion goes back to the state. Which we could reapply for, but it's not big enough, yes, to reapply for. So it kind of ends up in
General fund?
their general fund.
I'm sure the legislature takes care in spending that money, though.
I'm sure.
Now we have at
Yeah,
least
that's
one
what-
member of the
That's what I
legislature.
was saying. It's complimentary.
That will take a while, Ms. Yellen, if you want to go into chairman's committee reports, or,
Do you want to pass over Joe and do committee reports? Does anybody
Oh,
have?
you got Joe's? Why would you want to do Joe's?
or you can do Joe's
We could probably
You've got a
finish.
purchase order, you've got a...
Yeah, okay, well, let's do Joe then. Let's have Joe come up. We could also sign that after.
A lot of meetings going on. Yeah.
Joe? So I see that, yeah, you are here to discuss $8,800 for repairs to a damaged planetary.
Yeah, it's, I had a quote to fix the grader,
Yep.
and, once they took it apart and started working on it, they found more wrong with it.
Yep.
So, I really didn't have much option. They worked with me and kept me informed. It wasn't really a surprise. They had it a long time, so finding the parts, or some parts they had to actually machine. So it was a long process, so I think it's a fair price, and I actually have pictures, or I have a whole crate full of parts if you'd like to see.
No, that's good. I believe you.
So, that's where I'm at with it.
Is that thing almost fixed?
I'm working on one solenoid and a hydraulic. I've got it back,
Yeah.
but I'm fixing a hydraulic leak on one of the pistons right now, and so by the end of the week, should be.
Is this part of the work done already?
Yep.
Did they? Oh, okay.
Yep.
So, we've got a work order here from Joe, $8,858 to Anderson Equipment. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve that?
I move that we approve this, request for $8,858.19 to Anderson Equipment for the repair on the planetary.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I'll approve that. You will sign, there's the original. Okay. And then the other thing here is $4,500. Oh, this is to rent the excavator to... Was this, well, this wasn't because the grader was down. This is for something else.
This is something I do every year
Okay.
for a month, and so we
Oh, you
pick
know,
a certain.
could I didn't give you the original of that, I don't think. I'm sorry.
Okay.
These were together.
Sounds reasonable.
I'm gonna get all confused.
Well, we did it last year, and it worked out well. We did all of Texas Hill.
Oh, you want to sign it? Or-
Yeah.
never
We
mind.
did some of New Hebron.
It's a lot faster than using a backhoe.
Yeah, one whole month is equal to the whole summer with the guys with the one backhoe and the trucks, and plus you can get a nicer job.
Yeah, a lot more reach.
Right.
So do we have a motion to approve the $4,500 to Milton Cat for the excavator rental?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I think that's a good vote. Here's yours. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, gentlemen.
This goes with it, I guess.
Yeah, you can
goes
give
with it?
those, yeah, I think it does. All right, are we good on that? Then the next item on our agenda tonight is Maggie Mumford - Northern Pass update. Good evening, Mrs. Mumford.
Is it okay if Dick can
Sure.
also he'd like to join this? These aren't my glasses, so I don't know if I can.
I'm not giving you mine.
Even with these.
Well, that's good. She can't see and you can't either.
Can't see
Sorry.
here.
We can't either, so.
Since the public hearing that we've had in Plymouth, there's been a flurry of activity regarding Northern Pass and the SEC process and some other related departmental processes. And I wanted to bring folks up to date. I know Sharon was there for the first part of the Whitefield intervenor hearing, and I got there a little late, so we overlapped, and I don't know if Sharon has updated you in terms of what happened in the morning.
Generally speaking, but it occurred after I sent my email, so you've got the most recent version.
Oh, okay. Well, briefly, Northern Pass was asked to provide a decommissioning plan or a study to be done. The SEC, they were asking for an exemption to that, and the SEC denied that request for exemption. So that is a study they're going to have to do. After that, the big issue was the schedule, and the schedule has been moved to end at the date of September 30th, 2017.
That has never happened when I was here before.
Well, I was going to say, oh, I think it's my
It's red, we're in trouble. It is.
It is. So that took a lot of discussion, and of relevance to the town of Plymouth is that Attorney Fillmore did make the comments that it's incredibly difficult for the towns to legally make decisions and work together and arrive even at discovery questions. So there is the acknowledgement of the process of the legal requirement to announce your meetings and the time frame, and that was part of the consideration for delay of the entire process. That motion was made to be changed to September 30th, different than my initial writing to two of you when I was trying to update by email. That date is set. The interim dates are the ones that are flexible and are going to be at the discretion of the chair of the SEC, Martin Honenberg. Also decided was that committee felt that they did have the authority to allow other departmental agencies who were required to have discovery questions or render decisions, such as DES, to allow them to have a suspension of their time frame as necessary also. It came out in the meeting that DES is requiring Northern Pass to answer a lot more questions about their wetlands application. It's not considered complete. So that was considered big news. It is pertinent to Plymouth in terms of the river crossing of the Baker River. So I think that was pretty much it on that big time frame. The small time frames, the discovery questions for all municipal interveners is indeed May 31st, and there would be one person from each intervener group, not necessarily the spokesperson, but one person designated to be the filer for those questions, as you know.
So we have two people now, a filer and a spokesperson?
Potentially, yes. And so the person filing the discovery questions will be granted the password to get to the Dropbox to find the Northern Pass answers. There is some disagreement among attorneys and interveners as to whether everyone will have access to everyone's answers, or whether or not there will need to be a tracking method. Attorney Fillmore, when I did speak to her after the meeting, there were several in her intervener group that were very interested in the discovery process. She had been swamped with requests from questions from other intervener groups to ask if they could come into hers. And but she's also been exploring sending out some of the questions that Franconia to Plymouth municipalities have asked her to collate, because there are too many. Needleman at the SEC meeting, the attorney for Northern Pass, stated right up front, they are going to dispute the number of questions no doubt about it. And so there's a lot of wordsmithing and recrafting being done by Fillmore and 2 technical assistants to try to include everybody's concerns in the town without going to 150 questions. So some of the questions are going to be farmed out to other groups, and some of the questions are going to be more generic. My concern is that Plymouth has some very specific issues, as in the gasoline, hazardous waste, and also the fact that Plymouth District Water and Sewer is separate from Town of Plymouth. So depending on how a question is phrased, we might not get the answer that applies to Plymouth at all. What I realized afterwards is that we aren't asking any questions about the river crossing, I don't think, in the questions that Plymouth has submitted.
Although I was looking at part of that DES and, initial report, and there was a reference to Perlac.
Yeah.
Perlac they have managed, to bring up some of these questions and brought it to DES's attention. And so it was the work of Perlac that did bring that up. I have not seen it, so you're more up to date on that than I am, for sure.
Well, what was interesting about that DES thing is they also wanted them to look into burying another 30 or so miles of the line up north somewhere. I don't remember where. Way up.
I don't know.
And they were saying they wanted to see that proposal, which I thought was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And actually, that whole DES thing is very lengthy. They want to move all these towers, and, there's all kinds of stuff in there. It goes on and on.
Well, some people at the hearing had seen it, and some people had not. So there was quite this feeling of, whoa, what's going on here? What have we missed?
So is it your feeling about this that the questions that are answered by one intervener group are supposed to be viewed only by the members of that interview? Is that kind of what they're anticipating? Is that why there's these drop boxes? That's kind of news to me.
Well, we've heard conflicting information.
Right.
One that all questions will be, all responses will be available to all interveners. And the way that's apparently supposed to work is the interveners will be assigned an access to a site that'll have posted on it all of the questions and the responses.
Okay.
So theoretically.
Theoretically. Now how you navigate it with so many questions across the whole state to be able to decipher the questions, the responses to the questions that you had, as well as the questions that you wanted but didn't get.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering if we're...
But Fillmore, what she would like to do, and what she has been working on, is a tracking system so that she knows that Plymouth's water and sewer question went into the generic water and sewer question for all of the municipalities, and that is being asked by Grafton County or another entity. And so that she knows which way to tell us to look, to find it. But that conflicts with the other view that, no, it's going to be open access for everyone. But the SEC website itself, you can't download anything from it. It just doesn't work. So there is concern about the accessibility to the answers to these.
Germane to this, it would be very helpful if we knew, I think we have, what you submitted. Is that indeed the final set of intervener questions, or did you do some editing that?
That
Yeah,
got to you?
Oh, no.
No,
Which one actually
the questions
was?
that were submitted were the questions that we had all edited and you
And
commented on.
then you got them and said that they were sending on
Yeah, the only
18th.
thing that was, that Bill changed, to my knowledge, was you had one question that was like lined out.
Oh,
And he deleted it.
I may have lined it
Oh,
out.
no,
And
it's
there was
fine.
a printing issue on some asterisks, but, or some italicized text, but I got rid
I
of all
can
that.
send you what I sent to
Right,
her.
Yeah.
You
Because
actually were
there-
copied on
Then
it.
it looped around.
Yeah.
An earlier
Oh.
version looped around to Grafton County, and so Grafton County has a different version of the Plymouth questions, and it's,
Well, that's because the first one that I did was sent to Lara Sappho,
yeah.
by me, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one I've seen, the one that went to her.
Yeah, okay, no, there's a
So-
later one.
Okay,
That-
so if
that
we could see the
Maggie and-
later one, and then,
Well, Maggie did it.
Yeah, and
I
Megan
did it,
edited
but then you worked on it.
I worked
And then
on
you
it.
sent it off and
You
said it
sent
was
it
off, but I
off,
haven't
and you
seen
were
the final
copied.
version.
You
No,
were
I wasn't I was copied,
on the version that I gave to Mike to
yes,
send
okay, so
to
that's the one.
well,
Christine.
what would be helpful is if we had that plus, when it's known what makes it into the 50.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, let's address
So that
that
we can
separately.
see-
I can forward you that, no problem.
Yeah,
But what's interesting to me about this discussion is this is just a little microcosm
Oh,
of
yeah,
the stuff
right.
that's going on, and oh my goodness.
it is. right.
But as far as what ultimately gets submitted, my expectation is that Christine Fillmore is basically going to do that. I mean, I have offered to help, but she hasn't, she's just said, no, I don't think so. And then we also, you know, I think that you had a discussion with her up in Whitefield about
Right.
possibly having a meeting tomorrow.
And she was planning on that as far as I
That's
know.
my question.
So,
And that came up from several interveners that wanted to make sure their questions from their particular town got in their particular version.
right, so,
Doesn't want to spend all afternoon doing it.
right, so, I sent out that email and said, we can have a meeting, we can do a a conference call, whatever works. But I haven't heard, I don't think Christine was at work today because I wrote to her and she said, she replied by saying she was out. She was under the weather. I think she was out sick. And, so I have no news on whether there is or is not going to be any meeting tomorrow. I got an email tonight after I got here from somebody from that Peter Grote in
Grote, yeah.
Franconia saying they weren't going to participate or they couldn't make it or something.
Couldn't attend, and Margot Connors from Sugar Hill said she couldn't attend, but the issue of conference call, I think, is still alive.
Right.
For those parties.
Well, they didn't say, but we'll participate in a conference call. At least
I
Grote
believe
didn't.
Margot did
Okay.
from what I got.
Well, Fillmore definitely wanted participation, is what she expressed. She wants to make sure people help figure out the tracing, and she wants to avoid redundancy, and she definitely asked for a prioritized list, because she anticipated they're not all going to make it on it, so, and I can't prioritize them, but, so she did want priorities, if possible. But since then, I don't know if she's managed to farm out the questions or
Well,
not.
I don't know if there will or will not be a meeting or a call tomorrow, but I suspect this is going to turn out to be like so many things. It's probably going to get in on the 31st, you know,
Mike is.
more or less.
Sorry.
Yep, no?
Is Plymouth officially being represented by Fillmore along with the other communities?
No. And actually, I wanted to discuss that in our non-public tonight, but we didn't have time because we were busy with other things, but we may stay and discuss it after.
Well,
I would-
is the board planning to be legally represented on?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
I would really
All right.
strongly urge you to do that. Right from the very first
Yeah.
pre-hearing conference, Martin Honenberg made it really clear that if you don't have legal representation, you're going to be left in the dust. And
He'll see to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Fillmore and one other lawyer did bring up that it's still difficult to be representing some, but also the spokesperson
Yeah.
for all.
Well, I
And
think
in addi-
Christine Fillmore's got 10 towns.
Yeah.
And I know that, who's Steve Whitley, who has
Whitley.
Woodstock,
Right.
I think just took on Deerfield.
Right, and
I don't know
Deerfield is going to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
They have separated them out into completely separate intervener group. And
Right. So.
they have huge
And
issues.
there's, I mean, even for somebody like Christine, there are potential conflicts among the towns just here, I
Right.
can imagine, you know. And even trying to get them all to agree or to be okay with her putting these questions here and these, you know, the
But
data
she
requests.
seems to be game
Yeah,
to do that, but recognizes the awkwardness of the situation.
yeah,
And I would argue that Plymouth's interests are much more similar to Franconia's than they are to Deerfield's. They're going to spend a lot of time arguing about the overhead lines and the, however many acres of transformers as it comes up to Deerfield and switches over to AC. So, even though the formal deadline is extended to September 30th, my concern is everything has to be pre-filed. If you want testimony to get in, it has to be pre-filed, and there can be no new issues raised after that. So it's all front-loaded.
I'm sorry. Did those motions for the Council for the Public's experts get granted?
I think so, yes. That was not discussed at the intervenor hearing that I heard, but they anticipated, they being SEC said they would make public results of several motions within the next few days. But one of those was one that's been hanging over their heads for a month.
You know, as far as, I don't know much about what the testimony is going to be like or what it will be comprised of, but I can't see us hiring some $100,000, $200,000 expert to do a study for us and testify in this thing, you know?
But I could see that if you were formally represented by a lawyer who was also representing the other towns, that your voice would be heard and that you would be able to get your names on concurrences or disagreements on motions.
Right.
And your name would be there in front of the SEC as a town that cares about it, because it is kind of a game.
Oh, yeah, I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
And I don't think it's just on the surface. I think, you know, I can't keep going.
I guess the reason I was asking that Council for the Public thing is they're talking about something in the neighborhood of $2 million worth of, you know, work.
And it was clarified to us that Council for the Public is not representing any specific municipality
Right.
or intervener's interests and will not.
Right.
And they even, on some of their motions, only referred to one of the discovery dates, not the other ones. So they were very specific. They are representing what they view as the public and not anybody else
Right.
in the room. So we're not going to have access, we as a municipality or me as an intervener in another town, are not going to have access to those experts.
No. And, but that's not to say that they won't come through Plymouth and take a look at what's likely to happen, what the impacts might be as part of their larger study. And so I'm kind of thinking that, as a practical matter, when it comes to expert testimony, it's going to be the Council for the Public's experts who are providing the most meaningful testimony on these things.
It could be. I think that one of the northern towns has hired an engineer, but I don't think you'd have to hire that engineer, but I think the lawyer may be aware of what's going on. The other thing that can happen is you can put in a motion that you want to have some sort of testing done in Plymouth. You can put in a motion to have an engineering plan done, or to indicate, or that you want to see the full economic study. So any of those motions that you can request don't have to be part of discovery, especially if Northern Pass says, nope, we haven't done that study.
And what's the deadline to do so?
That's a little unclear. I think it's any time before, it'll be no good after pre-filed testimony. So it's most useful before that, because interveners are requesting additional site visits and balloon tests, and as PERLAC requested, more info on the wetlands, more studies.
We don't want to take a
It's okay.
reasonable amount of time here. There is one thing that would be helpful for us to understand, particularly as we consider the questions that, if they don't make it to the 50, or questions that might arise from our knowledge about what transpired at the May 4 meeting with legal counsel. What's the gist of that? Is there anything in there that...
I'm not understanding
The meeting that you had...
with the Northern Pass people?
Right, on May 4.
Yeah. What, I tried to summarize it. I mean, we talked to them about what the options were for going down Green Street, basically, and whether or not they would do that. And we did that because when they first proposed the Route 3 route, they made an appointment with Paul, and they came in here and talked to him about what they were planning to do, and that's when they first brought up this suggestion that they would...
Some clarifications.
Yeah.
First of all, it was you and Bill, wasn't the board.
Well, no, I was talking about way
Well, I
back.
know, and then they came in to meet with Sharon and me,
Way back, in October,
When they
okay.
first announced it.
when they first
that was
announced it.
August.
But that was way before
They came
any,
to town, we were blind. Well, and I
we
was
didn't even know who they were at the time.
So I was trying to summarize that first meeting
Right.
by saying, my understanding of it is that Paul and Sharon, I guess, met with them, and that's where this suggestion that they would pay the $1 million a year for 10 years first came up. And Paul, to his credit, I think, said, you know, if this thing's going to come down here, you should be looking at an alternate route because Main Street can't take the punishment, you know. So that was sort of in their mind over the course of several months, although nobody ever talked to them about it, until John Radigan had a discussion with them before May 4th, where again, I think the $10 million thing came up, and I'm not sure otherwise what they really said, because what he was trying to do was set up a meeting with Bill and me and them, which he did, for May 4th.
Yeah.
So then they came in on May 4th, and we talked about that alternate route, whether or not it was feasible. The $10 million thing never came up at all. Nobody mentioned anything about money, not us, not them. And we asked them why it wasn't going down 93, and they said because the state doesn't allow it. It was a little bit awkward. Nobody really was all that excited to be there, I don't think. Well, I don't know if that's fair to say, but we didn't, you know, I think they're expecting that if we want them to look at that any further, that they will hear from us, and they're not hearing from us, so I don't think they're looking at that any further. We could write to somebody, not to interrupt you, but we could write to Needleman and tell them we had our public hearing, and, you know, we can tell
Yeah,
them.
that's what I'm just wondering about. Is there any need for closure? Or does it suggest any questions that haven't yet been asked?
I don't think so.
I think our attorney is doing that.
Oh,
Mr. Radigan is taking that off the table,
Yeah.
that we will not negotiate.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But I need to put this caveat out there. We are also not Plymouth Water and Sewer.
Correct.
Yeah.
I do not know I don't know anything at all about what kind of contact they've had with Plymouth Water and Sewer.
So is it fair then to assume that after Attorney Radigan requested their proposal in writing that we're not likely to see such a thing?
well, I don't think we requested a proposal in writing.
There was no such thing that happened.
I don't think there's ever been anything in writing
Well,
from them.
last time I was here, you had said that
That
you
we
requested...
thought that Attorney Radigan saw something in writing.
Oh, that's
Remember,
true,
I said
yeah.
I
you're
wasn't
right, you're
sure.
right.
I gave you
Okay.
my best shot of what possibly happened with the attorney.
Okay,
I
because
told
we've
you I
been
did not
kind of
know.
waiting to see what
And that did-
their response was
And that did
gonna
not
be.
happen.
Well, I
Well,
could,
and then I thought it was gonna happen when they met, and it didn't happen then either.
Yeah.
So the only time it
Not
actually
likely then.
happened was verbally with Sharon and I,
Right, and I don't think we heard from them until
And
a
we-
year later.
right.
They went silent after they came to town and really blindsided us.
Okay.
And that was just me saying two things. A, you would shut down on Main Street and we wouldn't survive it. And B, you should contact Plymouth Water and Sewer because they've got a similar problem with, they might have to shut down Main Street because of their 1910 infrastructure. And maybe together, in other words, you're better off talking to them. We had no interest in shutting down Main Street. That's evolved into all these things where we've been guessing what they might be talking about, what they might be offering us, but it's never been
But you
brought
had
up
the
again.
direct conversation, and so that's the,
yeah, the
But we
direct
didn't even allow
conversation.
any conversation after that. No, Sharon and I actually came before the board.
right.
We were told that they could not even communicate through us. They could only communicate through the board at a public hearing, but not at a public meeting,
Yep.
which they refused to do.
Except for the meeting that we did with attorney.
With
So
an
it was a-
attorney,
yeah.
right.
With your
So
attorney
Two of
there.
us and an attorney. it was,
But even that was
And
a
then-
subcommittee, that was
Did
That was not a
Needleman
full
actually?
board meeting.
Did who?
Did Needleman come?
Yes.
to that?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, all-star cast.
So they have never met with the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, no.
No, I just want to get, but there's a lot of rumors out there. There's even rumors that we're on a take and we've been accepted a bribe. I mean, that's been out there.
Yeah, I never heard anything about them meeting with the whole board. That was-
No, they've never met with the whole board. There's never been anything offered to this board in writing. The $1 million a year for 10 years never got brought up again.
verbal.
A second Main Street has never gotten brought up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think,
That's all very good to know.
I was actually, thinking that we haven't really talked amongst ourselves since the public hearing either, of course. So, and my takeaway from that was that we are not going to talk to them about an alternative route or anything else. We're just going to deal with it as it is. We're going to participate in our intervenor group, do what we can to shoo them away. And isn't that,
Right, and since
Pretty
this is
much
the first time they have met since the public hearing, I can tell you that, and I can tell the board now, the only other conversation was between Attorney Radican and me and Catherine, to take anything else off the table, except that we are totally opposed to Northern Pass, and that's when Attorney Radican said that I'm taking any other conversations
Good.
regarding $10 million, regarding an alternative route, regarding a second Main Street, everything else was taken off the table.
yes, sir.
Regarding that public hearing, again, thank you very much for doing that. These are just the copies of the petitions.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, God, they were sitting in my home.
But there were several petitions though, right? Are these all combined, or what they?
Well, there were several forms, they said the same
Okay,
thing.
all right.
Several different forms that said the same thing. There were 219 Plymouth residents, business owners, and taxpayers, 381 non-Plymouth residents of New Hampshire. What's not here, because I haven't figured out how to download it, is to date 154 online petitions, a combination of Plymouth and non-Plymouth New Hampshire, for a total today of 754. So I'll give you that, but I also put a note on the bottom, there's some duplication of names in here. What we found out is a fair number of people signed both as New Hampshire residents and as Plymouth residents. So, but anyway, there it
okay.
is. It's not the raw number so much as the point that in a 5-day period, except for the online, 600 of those signatures came on the Thursday through Monday leading up to the May 9 hearing.
Interesting. Those were all gathered out on the street somewhere in town?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the online?
And also at the hearing.
Oh, okay, and the online, how was that done? Is there?
The online it was just as I understand it, what's a burst? You put it online, there's a software program that does these for you. And then you send it out, and it kind of goes viral in this community by Facebook? Facebook, I
Yeah,
think.
okay. That was Facebook,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it says the very same thing as those petitions.
All right, and then the signatures, are they like, everybody likes it, or?
Yeah, and the only guarantee there is that it has to come from an email, and a no email can be, so
You can't use it twice.
you can't use the same email twice, but that wouldn't prevent Mike from using yours and mine, and, I suppose. So I don't give a lot of stock to that, but I do think that came in that flurry as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I think, so the immediate concern is those data requests.
Yeah, and if I can make that comment, that I think there are a few people concerned about what conversations are happening behind the scenes. I think there's very little concern about that. The concern is there's a process and we need to be on top of it. That's the concern.
Oh. That flurry of emails on signing on with the What was it? What was the email I sent you?
It
You
was a
sent back?
motion to concur, it was requesting concurrence with the
Concurrence.
Oh, the
motion.
assent or concurrence.
Yes.
And I
I
think it was
totally
for the
forgot about
retention
that.
of experts.
Yeah.
Is there still any opportunity to do that?
Once the
I think those-
process,
Those motions are granted, I think.
yeah.
Okay.
And then
kinda
one,
moot.
and clearly, the motion.
If they aren't granted, Needleman was begging them to grant them.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I will do, I respect your request for send them to you so you can respond. I will get back and I'll just say, please know that the board is happy to receive your request.
Yeah, well, and, yeah, the thing about that was, it's sort of that town government thing, you know, you have this issue, you gotta do something in 12 hours, you can't have a meeting really, you know?
Yeah, right.
And, again, I'm sure that for the other 3 or 4 towns in our group, I think, Attorney
does-
Fillmore probably just sent in an assent, you know, no
Right.
problem. She knows everybody's, so,
And that's one of the big advantages.
that's one of the advantages of having the attorney, right?
By the way, the flurry was 4,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they all just came and people talk to each other and they shoot it in, you know?
Yeah, no
I think
problem.
that's
No, I
what
understand.
that was.
Quick question about the thumb drives. There theoretically are thumb drives that have the whole application, and every municipality has them. As I was trying to work on the discovery questions, I tried to locate those, and I could only find downstairs. Sharon helped me find one that we couldn't find, it wasn't formatted, and then 4 copies of the same one.
Are you
that was
looking for
very
the thumb
partial.
drives from Northern Pass?
Uh-huh.
There's about 6 or 8 of them.
Yeah, but they're not, the application per
No.
se isn't on.
No.
Yeah.
No,
I
this
just
is
had-
the-
And so you
what-
haven't received
I
it.
cataloged
Because we're,
What Maggie's referring to is the 27,000 page.
Right, that's.
No, and you have to understand that we had to accept a thumb drive because it was 12 feet by 14 feet cube, I believe, if we took it in
hard copy. But you haven't
Oh,
received
yeah.
it.
But we
No.
haven't received.
I have 8 thumb drives. What's on that? We have not been able
There's
to
no
review.
application.
I've looked at 5 of, there were 5 thumb drives that could be located.
However,
4 of them
many,
are
the
the
town
same.
clerk has,
Yeah,
oops.
but 4 of them are copies, so they,
Most of them are just corrections of
Right.
the previous ones, right?
Or
Oh,
wetlands, there's no
they're
application.
updated ones or
But
something?
but nothing
know,
is
can I-
indexed as applications to
Get
anything.
it from,
When you go, not
Pass.
to overly beat this into the ground, but when you go on the DES website and you look at the application stuff in the early part of the DES, I meant the SEC, is that the application?
but you can't download it, you can't open it most of the time. And-
Now, I've looked at a lot of that stuff. I didn't have,
Well, the beginning theoretically is the application.
Yeah.
And then everything else is all the motions and,
right.
but
So you're saying the application part of it in the beginning, portions of it
I
you
think
can't
it
open?
is. I've never been able to successfully open it. There've been a lot of troubles with the
There's
website.
problems, and they're just saying, well, sorry,
Yeah.
essentially. the
So that's why I
SEC.
came to
Yeah.
try to find it.
they meaning
town.
the SEC.
Because the SEC actually directed interveners to go to the host towns and ask for those thumb drives. That's why I was frustrated.
Yeah.
Not have the application per
Well-
se on them.
Right,
like
right.
errata and
But it's
addendums
just
and, yeah.
another one of the complications.
So we're chasing
So,
our tails with that aspect. pretty
Yeah.
much.
Okay,
Thank you for coming in.
thank you. And
Thank you.
and would you?
We'll try not to do this very often.
Yeah, and would you, is it reasonable to participate if indeed there is a meeting with the discovery questions?
Did I send,
I would love to.
I will,
You have my email.
well, it's either going to be here,
Yeah,
or it's going to be a conference call.
okay.
And I've got a conference call number, which I was going to send out if it comes
Okay.
to that. And
That'd
I'll
be great.
include you on
If
it.
that's okay.
And then I also said if there's going to be a conference call and the people from up north want to come to Lincoln, to my office, they can do that if they're more comfortable
great.
with it.
Yeah.
But now I guess,
See tomorrow?
well, I
don't know
don't
yet.
see it happening tomorrow at this point.
Okay,
But
all right.
we'll try to
Thank you.
keep on top of it. I mean, I'll write to Christine and say, well, then, try to, keep in touch with her in terms of how it's going. And I'll include you.
Thanks, Dick. Thanks, Maggie.
All right. So we have, is Gary Bishop here? Yes. Oh, man, that was a long time waiting, wasn't it? Maybe you'd like to come up and talk to us? Oh, that's why Joe's here, too. Yeah, okay.
How we doing?
Fine.
Good.
I'm Gary Bishop.
Nice to meet you, Gary.
I live on Reservoir Road.
You wrote a letter.
Yep.
And we have seen it. And, well, why don't you tell us, we won't read the letter, why don't you tell us what your issue is?
Well, I would like to know the reason why he's coming up, what he's doing up on Reservoir Road. Mainly in front of my farmhouse, which is kind of concerned.
Okay. Joe, do you want to explain what you're doing?
I can't, sure.
I mean, not to put you on the spot, but that's what he wants, so.
I do. So, it's our obligation to take care of the roads, and so part of that is trimming trees and trying to keep the corners open. So we have a place to push the snow and get the sunlight in, and it's just an ongoing thing. But in front of the bishops, every time we go there, we get shut down. And it's just been, it's got to the point where it's just been accepted. So,
Are you talking about years?
yeah. Right. And so, as we maintain everything else, that section has gotten narrowed up, and it's time. The thing is that this year, we're coming through and doing all the culverts, and we're doing the ditching and whatever drainage we need to do, because that road is slated to be paved at some point. So in order to do that, we have to do all the other things.
Sure.
So it's not directed at Mr. Bishop, it's just that particular road is getting the premium maintenance in prep for paving.
So, now, if I do read Mr. Bishop's letter here, it sounds like there are two issues. One was trees, and the other is ditches, basically. Is that fair to say? And you said they've cut hundreds of trees along the road adjacent to my properties. Is that right?
If you're asking me hundreds of trees, I'd say no, but we've certainly cut a fair share, but I wouldn't put it at 100.
And what kind of frontage have you got on? You've got frontage on both sides, according to this, I guess.
Yeah, it's close to 1,000 feet on each side.
All right, so 2,000 feet is kind of, what is that, 4/10 of a mile almost, something like that? And have the tree, so you've cut trees?
Mm-hmm.
Is that pretty much a done deal?
Yeah, the tree part of it is done in front of his place, and we're still working on the far end near Bell Road, but we're almost in completion. But in front of his place, we are done cutting trees.
Sounds like the trees are done.
Yeah, I've been maintaining the property for over 30 years, and there hasn't been any trees near the road. And what I don't know for sure is what distance that the highway department claims, to maintain.
Yeah.
I don't know
What's
what
the
that
width
is.
of the road, or the right-of-way, is that?
Right, from the center
Yeah, I
of
don't
the
either.
center of the road to the bank.
How do you deal with that, Joe?
But we base it on walls.
Oh, I see. Are there stone walls all along there?
Correct.
And you assume, or
Correct.
gather that the
And
stone
so
walls were built on
We
the
take all
boundary?
the small stuff and little stuff, and what we're trying to do is make enough of an area so our plow can come through and push the snow off and not make it a narrow corridor in the wintertime.
Do you, Mr. Bishop, do you agree that things were narrowing up through that?
No, they're getting wider, actually,
How does that happen?
from the road plow. They're coming up, and the banks are sloped because of the height, so you have to have so much of a slope. And they've been doing it for many years, but these last 3 years, they're not paying attention or not knowing that they gotta lift the wing up a little to get through, you know, and it's never been an issue until 2013, and then it's just been getting worse. And the road is, got asphalt here, then my lawn was here. Now my lawn's way over here, and the asphalt's way over here.
Yeah, it's hard to, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. It's a little hard, you know. You don't have a piece of paper and a pen, so it's hard to.
I got some pictures.
Oh, well, maybe that would be helpful. But just to cut to the chase a little bit, I mean, the tree part of this work is completed, it sounds like.
Right, so obviously I can't stop it, but I tried to at the time, because I had an appointment to go somewhere. And I heard them, and I looked down there, and they were down by the Boltons down that way. And they were cutting my trees that I've been saving for 20, 30 years. They were like this big around, and they were 27 feet from the center of the road over into the ditch. And there was no limbs bothering anything. They were cutting them that side. And then I ain't supposed to be running. I almost passed out, but I got down there, and I told Joe to stop, just talk it over, and he just said, no, keep cutting them, chipping them. He kept the chipper running, the chainsaw was running, and so I ended up, stopped talking to Joe, and I ran down and grabbed one of the trees, and I said, you ain't cutting this one, you'll have to cut my legs off. I mean, geez, nobody would listen to me, and then finally, I just couldn't take it anymore, and me and Joe talked, and I said, there was a couple in front of the farmhouse that I left here just for a little bit, and it was time for him to go, and I said, you can take these, and they were just, these ones here, but this is after he's already ganged up on me, and I had no choice. I couldn't stop him, I couldn't,
So then you say he indicated he'll be installing culverts, ditches, and taking away dirt from my front lawn. So if I could just ask, Joe, are you planning to improve the ditches along that stretch?
So if you're at the top of the hill and you're headed in town towards like the water tower, all of that is really steep banks and it has a curbing. So the only thing that happens there is there's a buildup of sand from when we plow. It's just a slight windrow. And so it's just a matter of just scraping along the bank and then smoothing it up. It doesn't change the contour of any of that. It's just a windrow of sand that we're gonna clean up so we can maintain that curb.
Okay.
And then
Is
go
that
on the-
okay with you?
no.
No? Okay, yeah, Bill?
Is there a curb?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
going
but
towards town.
the sand and the soil's kind of like built out into, beyond
Yeah,
that
well,
curb
as
or
you're
something?
pushing with the plow, it comes off the wing and onto the bank. So that there's like a windrow of silty sand that just needs to be cleaned up, which isn't a big deal. And then going the other way, there is an issue because it's been ongoing with him. The water, he's built up the edge of the road so the water runs down into the next door's neighbors. And they've approached me several times and unsuccessfully. I've never been able to stop it. And so they, in return, built a big hump in front of their driveway so it wouldn't go in their driveway. So we at one point I had an agreement with Gary to turn the water off before it got there. And so we put a retention pond with stone, and the agreement was that he would keep it clean if it filled up with sand, because he was concerned about it damaging his trees or going out in the field. But ultimately, that's where the water runs. That's where it was designed to go, and you can visually see that. So he did that for a while, but all that sand, he built up a bank along the other side of his road, and so he just keeps crowding us out.
Bill?
So obviously I'm Gary's neighbor, and.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, that's where you made reference to the Boltons, but,
Oh.
and that top of the hill is always kind of like an issue.
Right,
in
the
fact,
bottleneck.
It's a bottleneck, it's narrow, I know they had problems paving it, they had the, you
Well,
know,
that wasn't problem paving it.
they hit the
guy
hit the
had his
cable.
dump body up.
Yeah, it was a
and
big
pulled
horse show, yeah.
Pull right down.
But, yesterday I come up over the hill, there's like two bikers, guys on bicycles just stopped at the top of the hill, looking out in the field because it's a lovely view, and I'm thinking this is the worst place to stop because you can't see a car coming over, and so I gotta admit, even though I know you became attached to those trees, it looks better. And I know you do have a lot of, larger trees that you can still tap. And so, at least from a neighbor perspective, I think,
Oh, you're talking about the trees that were directly in front of the farm?
yeah,
Yeah, they were going, they weren't maples, they were there.
they had lilacs and
I was
stuff too.
protecting something on the other side of the wall.
Oh, where we went beyond the wall, or,
No.
okay,
But then he eliminated those little, right,
Right.
I was gonna do that anyways,
okay.
because they were just junk anyways, they weren't maples. These ones are down towards your rental house.
Yeah,
That
okay.
ditch there, that wide clearing right there.
Yep.
He was way down in there, that's where he was cutting the maples.
You know what? We could go round and round about this all night, I guess, right? And talking about, what do you think we should do? What would you like to see done?
Well, there's no ditches anyways up there because there is no water. I mean,
He's
it
talking-
comes a little, when you get your snow running, melting and such like that, you get a little run, but there's never been ditches on each side going down towards Bolton's.
There was at one point, I know it was, there was something constructed that would allow the water to go prior to,
Well, what they did, right, I didn't want them to put, because it always went down the road. Well, my grandfather, he used to go down the hill, and it actually went with that new house you guys had built. It used to go down into there, and then when they built the house, of course, it was a driveway, so then it had to go down further, and then it's just been going that way, and then Peter came to me and said something about putting a drainage down into my field. You know, roadways going down and then running into the field with the sand in, you got salt, you got motor oil and such like that running down.
Gary.
And I was trying to avoid
I got a question for him.
All right.
Do you have a deed description of your property?
Well,
Do you know where your meets and bounds are?
Yeah,
Do you have pins along the road?
what are you getting to?
Well, that road, I think, was laid out by the King's surveyors when the Dartmouth College Road was built. And it was my understanding that they were pretty specific in their detail, how wide the road would be. And I was wondering if your deed might mention any of that.
Yeah, I didn't happen to look at, I just thought the town had a certain code that they went by from the center of the road to the, the center of the road to one side, that they have to maintain, that they get the right to maintain to make it safe for the public. I
think that's
think it was like 15 feet, but I don't know.
In general, wherever we trim, it's usually those roads are laid out by the stone walls as a boundary. And there's just very few people that have an issue with that. And that's been our guideline, and it works.
Because I'm sure that those walls weren't put there for the road. They were to keep the sheeps in back 1800s.
Mr. Chair, that's a
Yeah.
guideline that we have to use, and it's used
Yeah.
throughout the state of New Hampshire. Center of roads aren't necessarily running where they're supposed to run.
Yeah, well, and it's also true that roads are different widths. You know, they were created different widths at different times, and you can't expect the road agent, I don't think, to have all, yeah, I mean, the whole law of roads is very complicated, and I think what Joe is trying to do is make this road nice, make it look good, make it work well, and he wants to get it into a condition where he can pave it. And if he can meet your needs while doing that, I think that'd be great. And if there's something specific that you can articulate to us that you'd like him to do to help you in some way, we'd be happy to hear it. But I think you gotta, we got a lot of traffic going over that road, and we want to keep it in good shape, and we don't want to endanger people or make it
I know
difficult
that.
to plow or...
I've been maintaining, like I said, I faithfully out there every year, 3 or 4 times with my string trimmer, and I keep it trimmed all the time. It's never out of place.
I'm still not sure what the problem is here. It sounds like the trees are...
Well, now, they're not lifting the wing up going by the farmhouse.
Garrett,
Ask him what he plans on doing about what he's planning on doing next up there.
is it,
The trees are done, now he's gonna be doing some more work.
Right,
If he can
so-
explain exactly what the specifics are on that, I think
So
would help.
there's, if you start at the crown of the hill, this thing goes towards town where the curbs are, nothing changes there as far as the width of the road. We're just cleaning some sand off the edges of the bank and smoothing that up.
okay, do you understand that?
Yeah, I don't want that. I maintain it. If there's any kind of sand or anything like that, I usually take care of it.
Mr. Chair, could I please recommend that the board vote for a rep to go with Joe and the bishops and look at this problem? I know what Mr. Bishop is talking about. I know what Joe is talking about.
And I don't.
This can't possibly be explained to you sitting in this room.
All right.
I think you need to pick a rep to go with Joe and the bishops.
Pick a what?
A rep.
Representative
Oh, a rep.
from the board.
All right. That's a good idea. Who wants to do it?
I know exactly what it is, but so maybe you want to pick a different rep.
I'll go.
I'll do it. How about you and me?
Okay, we'll go.
How about if we, the two of us, out and look at it with you and Joe? You want to pick a time? For me, early or late in the day is the best, just because I work out of town.
Yeah, whatever's good for you guys.
When do you have to be there again, Joe? Is this kind of on your schedule? That's what you're doing right now?
I'm scheduled for a couple weeks to start that road. I won't
The sooner the
necessarily.
better, and if you can get the authority of the board to give you the power to act with Joe on a conclusion.
Early works for me.
I get up early.
So, tomorrow is, um, 7:30 tomorrow? Is that doable? Do you come in that early?
Yep.
It's supposed to be
I have-
Thornton
Oh, okay. How about same thing Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Oh, no, I have
It's supposed to rain
to,
tomorrow anyway.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow afternoon.
I have to be somewhere dressed up at 8:30 on Wednesday.
Oh, that's right.
Thursday's okay.
My whole crew will be out of town Thursday.
Friday, I gotta be dressed up at 8:30 again. Let's,
I could do it Monday if,
Can we do it tomorrow and have somebody besides Neil,
If
please?
Mike wants to go,
We need to get this done.
okay.
Mike, can you make tomorrow? Thank you. Mike? Mike and Mike?
yes, so 7:30 tomorrow.
Sure.
Okay.
Now
let's
you
do
need
it.
a motion to act. as a
You wanna,
subcommittee.
who did we
Make a
just decide,
motion.
that Mike and Mike? Okay, do we wanna, somebody wanna make a motion to authorize
John just
Mike
did.
and Mike
To
to
make a motion that
make a decision?
Mike Conklin and Mike Ahern go out, and that they have the authority of the select board to handle the situation with Joe and the bishops.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's do it, so see you in the morning.
All right, 7:30.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Now
guys.
we're gonna meet up on Reservoir, up at the farm. Is that where we'll meet? or-
At the farm tomorrow at 7:30.
Okay.
Don't park on the side of the road.
Yeah, pull into the driveway. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys getting right on it, too. Pretty good.
All right, yep, see you
All right.
tomorrow. So we have committee reports then.
Oh.
Make them quick, it's late.
I did one.
All right,
On Thursday, May 19th, I attended a meeting of the North Country Council Transportation Committee, and we had a representative from the Federal Highway Administration who had a rather lengthy dissertation on all the new federal funding programs and updates. And I brought back as much information as I could for Sharon and Paul. And it's going to be very helpful to us in applying for grants and funds. Also, we had another person give us they spoke on the program in Sugar Hill for assessing scenic roads and byways and their methodology, which I also brought that information back.
okay.
Oh, one more thing, the state 10-year highway plan is presumably going to be approved probably within a couple of months.
Okay. Sorry, I was just signing this thing from before. See if, well, that's Ann. That's it. Anybody else?
I
Nope.
have nothing, no meeting.
I did not go to the water and sewer meeting, but I'm planning to tomorrow night.
I got a couple
He
extra.
raised, Mike raised his hand first.
Bill can go first.
Okay, Bill.
All right, so the planning board is going through master plan formulation. We've had another focus group meeting. The second one occurred on May 12th, and that was for the municipal infrastructure. Now, I've got a third planning board, focus group coming up, and it's going to be on economic development, and it's going to be at Pease Public Library at 6:30. It's going to be Thursday, May 26th.
Okay.
That's it.
May 26th, did you say the time? Was I not listening?
6:30.
6:30, okay, at 5:26.
May
6th.
26th.
So I went to a
Thursday.
board meeting for the chamber, and I've got some
Crap.
report for the town that I've been wondering what's going on. They're looking for new board members at this point. The building in Campton, the Welcome Center, is for sale. And as the chamber expanded, it was just one building in one location that really didn't serve the entire community. It's been their first year as a broader chamber, and their projections were extremely optimistic on how many members they were going to keep on. And so it didn't meet that projections. They had money was short, some employees resigned, and basically the chamber, as well as it's been running, has been run by volunteers this whole time, getting out emails. And so right now, at this point, they're trying to redefine what the chamber is to the community. Based on my assessment, which is what I thought was going on, was the fact that it's not the same role that it used to be now, with everybody able to get onto their home computer and figure out what's in Plymouth or what's in Campton. They can do it on their own versus having to call someone. So I've got another board meeting that's coming up on the first Friday at 7:30 a.m. They meet on Highland Street, so I will make that next meeting as well.
Good. All right. Oh, geez, I better get my agenda out here. I think that might be it, huh?
Non-public.
Yeah, we should have a non-public session here. Can we have a motion to go into non-public session?
I move that we go into
By
non-public session.
Neil. Second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.